we're ready and eager to learn more about buy, sell, and win with you.
Exactly.
I just want to know, because this episode is very reliable to so many people that are into the real estate business. But I want to start with, why do emotions play such a powerful role when people buy or sell their property?
Look, because there's a very big emotional component when you buy or sell. Let's say this is more like in residential or personal properties. The decision is not only financial. You project yourself in the house you're gonna buy. You're attached to that house or condo you're selling. So there's a lot of emotions going through you when you purchase, especially when you purchase your first house or when you sell your first house or property or whatever. So like we said, it's not only numbers. There's a lot of feelings involved in all the process.
Before we continue with the questions, I want to know if there is possible that emotions can ruin a buy or sell experience or a deal that they're making.
Absolutely. Yes. There's people, I can tell you that there are buyers, for example, that are so afraid of the transaction, no matter how much information you give them, that either they never buy or they always want to put conditions in an offer that are completely unacceptable for a seller, just to sabotage the purchasing process. And the same thing for a seller. Just the fact of focusing on selling at a price that has no sense,
Yeah.
that's fear.
Yes.
That is a way of saying, I don't want to sell my house. I don't want to sell my property.
You talked about fear. What are the most common psychological biases that impact real estate decisions? Example, like emotional attachment, fear of missing out, or comparing to others.
So the fear of missing out is number one. And sometimes that fear can make people decide based on emotions and not based on numbers. The other thing is the anchoring is, look, I love my house so much
Yes.
that it's so difficult for me to sell, even though I have to or I need to or I want to. And it's in the back of your head, but you love your property so much that you create all types of blockages so you cannot sell. And there's also the financial component is, am I going to be able to pay? Am I going to lose my house and maybe lose my money? So I'm going to say that those are the three. Well, three will be like emotional attachment, like you say, the fear of missing out and the anchoring. And it goes both ways, huh? It goes for the buyers and it goes for the sellers.
This made me think of a story when I was looking for a house, and we went to a beautiful house in de Montagne, and the sellers were a bit older.
Yeah.
They were elderly, and they mentioned how much they loved the house and the importance of giving it to someone that they know that they will take care of it. Does that happen often?
It happens more than you can imagine. And I've had buyers win offers because of their profile when it's elderly sellers. So in those cases, for example, it's very important that either the broker presents your offer directly to the sellers and their broker to explain the profile, or that your buyers write a personal letter to the sellers with a picture explaining who they are. Because sometimes during the visits, the sellers are not there and they're not able.
True.
Many times also, buyers don't like sellers to be in the property because it's uncomfortable for the visit and that. But when it's an elderly person that's selling, I love that they're there because it makes the process very human. When the seller, it's an older person, that person is there, and you come with your family, with kids, and the kids are excited about what they're seeing. I remember, and this happened to me on a transaction in Santiasan, the sellers were there, And the little girl that came in, she's like, look, Mom, they have the same thing as us at our house. This is our house. This is a sign. This is a God sign. That's what exactly what the little girl said. That was a killer.
That was a winner.
That was a winner.
Oh my
That
goodness.
was a winner.
Well, and there are other cases where the sellers, they spend so much money on renovations that they see their house in a new perspective and they don't even want to sell the house anymore. Does that happen often?
Many times when I take the pictures and I send them to the clients before putting up the listing, a lot of the time I get this phrase, it's like, oh my God, I don't want to sell my house. It looks so beautiful in the pictures. But yeah, that happens.
And what kind of mistakes do buyers make when they fall in love with a property?
They become blind. They want to overbid, or they want to skip inspection. And this happened a lot during COVID.
They offer more too, huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
And this happened a lot during COVID. People wanted so badly to move out of the city and move to a house that people offer enormous quantities of money over asking. And many of those accepted things like sales without legal warranty when it wasn't justified, or they decided to skip inspection. So it's like you put a blindfold to. So that's where the work of a real estate broker comes in, to try to put perspective into the buyer.
I think for that, you guys have to be very transparent.
Yeah.
Yes, because they fall in love and they don't want to lose it, but you guys have to
and
be realistic.
Yeah, but you have to be careful. You can't be like a poker face. No, you have to empathize with that buyer and say, look, I understand where you're coming from, but the reality is this, and at the end, the buyer makes the decision, and they decide if they want to overbid or they want to skip inspection. But you, as a broker, in order to finalize a transaction, you cannot omit to tell them the risks of skipping an inspection, or you cannot not tell them, look, I don't see this house gaining enough value for you to be able to recuperate what you're going to overbid. You have to tell them.
And that happens during COVID. Does that happen still now or no?
Sometimes it does happen. It does still happen. Like I can tell you that still with houses under 600,000, either in the South Shore or the North Shore, there's overbidding all the time.
Wow.
And I had clients recently, they wanted to go way higher and I said, no, you need to stop. You need to stop because this house is not worth what you want to offer. What if we lose it? We're going to find another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very realistic of you, because I bet other real estate agents would see more money and be like, okay, let's go.
Probably.
Okay.
Probably, but that's when those people are... Look, normally, the people that buy with me, they call me when they want to sell.
Okay.
If they don't call you when they're going to sell the property they bought with you, something is wrong.
Yes. What happens when a seller overpriced their property for emotional reasons? And how does that affect negotiation in final results?
It's terrible. It's terrible. And I just went through that experience and it broke my heart. But they want to sell a condo and I gave them an evaluation and they want $100,000 more. And they're like, but look, we put so much love, and if I try to find something in this area for this amount, I'm not going to find it. And I'm like, yeah, but the comparables do not support what you want to ask for. And not only that, sellers cannot forget that when a buyer is going to get their mortgage, the bank, in a good amount of the cases, is also going to send an evaluator. And if the evaluator says, look, the property you're buying is not worth the price you're paying, the financing is going to fail, or that buyer is going to have to put more as a down payment. Sellers have to understand that, and this is going to sound mean, but this is the reality. What you want to price your property does not depend on how much you want on your pocket. It does not depend on how much the condos or the property sold 2 years ago, or how much there's other properties listed for, because at the end it's not what you're asking, it's what it's sold for. And you cannot try to price your property because it has potential. You cannot charge the potential to a buyer. That potential belongs to that buyer once they reach the potential. So sometimes, and in this specific case, I told those clients, I am sorry, I'm not the broker for you.
Oof.
I cannot take your mandate because I know you're going to feel like I said yes just to take the mandate, and then nothing is happening. I invite you to interview other brokers, but if this is the listing price you want, I am not the broker for that.
Interesting. You know that happens very often. Even on our street, there was a listing on a very, very beautiful house since September for $1 million. And now we found out last week that they lowered it to 800. And now we found out that they don't even have the sign anymore.
See?
Yes.
And why? Because that broker promised something just to get the mandate. And what unfortunately happens is when you're tired of showing your house after 3 months, you as a seller, you're like, okay, let's lower the price. Okay, let's lower the price. But what sellers have to understand, or what I always tell them, is I am not here to list your property. I'm here to sell your property. So I don't take listing mandates. I take selling mandates. It doesn't mean that I want to underestimate the house. I'm going to show them with numbers, with a very detailed comparative evaluation. It's not that, because when you say this to sellers, many times they tell you, oh yeah, you want to sell quickly to make your money quickly.
Yes,
No. It's not that. Let me show you the numbers and let me explain you. And the other thing is, and I told this to my clients that day, is what if you were the buyers and you love the condo and you ask your broker, show me the sales in the area, and nothing justifies the price that it's being asked? Wouldn't you say, I'm going to offer 100,000 less?
It's so true.
There you go.
Yes, because for example, that house, the surroundings are the market. It's valued at 500, 600, and then you see this house of $1 million. I'm like, wow. Okay, so how do stress and market pressure, like bidding wars, impact a buyer's or seller's ability to think clearly?
It has a big emotional toll, both on buyers and sellers. For the buyers, it means I'm missing out. I'm not going to be able to buy. I have to overbid. If I lose it now on the next one, I'm ready to overbid, even if the comparables don't support it. And for a seller, once you get an over asking offer, and if that offer fails, then for you to get an offer at the asking price or below, it's very difficult to understand.
Wow.
And I had it also with other clients. They wanted to put, it was a 5-plex, 4 residential units, 1 commercial unit. And when I evaluated, I said, look, it's worth 1.850. And they told me, yeah, but we got a private offer a couple of months ago at 2.2 million. And what happened with the financing? It didn't go through. And I'm like, that's like nothing. Yes. Having an offer that a bank is not going to finance just because you got 2.2 doesn't mean it's realistic. So it takes a huge toll on both buyers and sellers.
Interesting. And how do so many people believe they understand the market when in reality their decisions are driven by emotions and assumptions?
You know what? Because a lot of buyers and sellers don't have access to sold comparables. All they have access to is what the listing prices.
Yes.
So they say that house was for sale at $1 million. Okay, but when we check how much it sold for 100,000. Another thing, and this is with the clients of the condo that I said no to but the other unit, this unit, 2 units above me sold 1 year ago at 580,000. Yeah, but that unit had 1,500 square feet. Yours has 1,200. So buyers and sellers, unless they're in contact with broker, they don't have access to the real sold price, or unless they go to the land registry and they check. So again, that's why it's important to know the real numbers. Not to say that you need a broker.
But to have one is very important.
Yeah.
Yes. Talking about assumptions, have you had any negative experience with assumptions that they won't see the reality, or they won't go through to what is happening?
Many times.
Yeah.
Many times. Another listing that I have up for sale, before we put it up for sale, and they were like, but how come I am selling close to the municipal evaluation and there are other properties selling 100,000 over what the municipality had evaluated them? Well, because the municipality doesn't have to go and visit physically the properties every year. They only have to update the municipal evaluation by physically visiting properties every 10 years. Or so it's just because, or like I told my clients that were selling this condo, it's like, look, but the city is telling me that it's worth $550,000. Why can't I sell $100,000 more? And I'm like, and when I go and check, I see that there's a mistake. The city was evaluating their condo, taking into account the previous certificate of location that included the balcony, which is not a livable space.
Yes.
So they are actually paying higher taxes. So I told them, you should have contested this evaluation. So many times it's because the neighbor said, or because the friend said, or because I saw on social media, or because, so again, it's a very emotional process, but you have to stick to the facts.
You know what? I heard on the news this week that there are many complaints about the prices of houses and properties near lakes and rivers. And the fact that they're asking for so much, even though the liability is more.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. It's
Why
true.
is that?
Because people just, that's the offer and the demand. People want it. And sometimes, like with anything, sometimes you see clothes designers, ugly clothes, and people are overpaying just because it's the trend.
Yes.
But yes, when you're close to water, you could technically be in a flood zone, or you could be in a protection zone where there's an area of your land where you can't build anything. Or if ever your house burns down, then the municipality is not going to let you rebuild. So I don't know, I guess it's trends.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And how can a strong real estate help balance the emotions and rational sides of a client during a transaction?
By showing them the reality, the numbers, the sitting down, and like I said, doing the opposite question. If you're selling, what would you think if a buyer, and vice versa? As a buyer, what would you think if you send, for example, like we were doing in the Spanish episode, what would you think if you send an offer with 10 conditions to a seller? If you were the seller, would you accept? So.
And have you had any stubborn clients?
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of stubborn clients.
How do you deal with that?
Well, you just educate them.
Yeah.
Many times, and that's another fear. Being stubborn is just fear. It's fear of compromising. It's fear of buying. It's fear of selling. But when you give them information and when you educate them, that stubbornness, you can see, look, normally, if I have a client and the first time we do an offer, it's long, we revise it, everything has to be understood, there's a lot of questions. If with that same buyer, we go through a process of several offers, at the fourth offer or third offer, they're like, yeah, whatever, just send me the papers. I understand. I'll sign. And it's not because they stop caring. It's because they understood what it is. I'm going to say that's very rare that the client stops caring. I also had an investor, and at the beginning he was very complicated and put it very complicated clauses. And after the fourth transaction, his offers were so simple, and he did so much money because his offers were simple. And then, yes, he took additional risks, but they were calculated risks.
Interesting that you're able to do that. And I know you've shared on this episode many examples, but can you share a real life example where emotions or irrational beliefs completely change the outcome of a deal?
Well, I have a client that she's been looking for 6 years and she hasn't bought. So, yeah.
What do you think is happening there?
She's absolutely scared. She's a single mother, and it doesn't matter. And she's a very intelligent woman, and it doesn't matter how much data I give her. And sometimes she does come back. She's like, "Oh my God, if I had bought 6 years ago, I wouldn't be paying this." So that's the only example I can think of now.
Yeah.
I'm sure I have a million, but
it's okay. And what tools, strategies, or mental framework can help clients to make more objective and less emotional decisions?
For buyers, if you have a clear budget of what you want to pay per month, that is going to be key. I just went through a transaction with some buyers and they were pre-approved for $500,000. I told them it's not only what you're pre-approved for, it's what you're comfortable paying with every month. So we decided that even though they could go up to $500,000, we wouldn't buy anything that was more than $450,000. So budgeting for buyers is key. For sellers, stubborn sellers, it's letting them think. For example, like I told the sellers, I'm like, here, this is the information. These are the facts. Take your time. Don't make a decision. I'm not expecting you to tell me the price right now. Sleep on it, analyze it, and then come back with a decision.
Yeah. And if you could give one piece of advice to someone that it's about to buy or sell, what would it be to avoid this psychological mistake?
I think it's very important to recognize and understand the emotion you're going through. So, because it's normal, it's not going to disappear. It's very important to understand. And if I'm, for example, if I'm afraid of not being able to pay, then okay, you're afraid. Let's sit down and make the numbers. Or if you are afraid that you're not gonna sell at the correct price, okay, let's sit down, look at the numbers, look at the comparables, and then decide. I think it's like any psychological process.
Yes.
It's very important to recognize the emotion. Once you put a name to the emotion and you find real numbers and real data, that emotion might not disappear, but you know what the explanation is. So I'm going to say that it has to be, and in real estate, especially in residential real estate, there has to be a balance between rationality and also emotions, because it's not going to be also only rational, because if not, you wouldn't buy the house that you love.
Yes.
You would buy the house that makes sense price per square foot. And it's also important to understand, yes, this house is a little bit more expensive, for example, but it responds to everything that I need. So I think it has to be a balance, and also recognizing and putting pen to paper.
Yes.
What is that emotion, and what is it triggering, and how can I understand or make it less strong in my decision.
I know that we've talked a lot on this episode about the clients and the client's emotional state dealing with real estate, but I want to know how do you handle with that, and how should a real estate agent has to then deal with their own mental health dealing with complicated clients?
Oh my God, I appreciate that question, because nobody ever asks us that.
There you go.
I try to put myself in the client's shoes. So I try to, sometimes I do get annoyed. I do get, oh my God, frustrated. And then I think, what is that person going through? And the more answers I give, the more that's going to make that person calm. I believe one of the biggest assets and what clients tell me that is that I answer always and that I answer pretty fast. Even if it's at 8:30 p.m. or 9 p.m. and they're asking me a question, if I don't want to sit down in my computer because I'm at a dinner or whatever, at least I'm going to tell them, let me check tomorrow and I'll get back to you. And that already eases the client.
You're reachable.
What is terrible for a client is not having information, both for buyers and sellers. If the property is not moving and you disappeared, you listed their house and you disappeared, that the client but for us, it is tough. We work 24/7. People think that it's just going to open. No, there's a lot of emotional I try to put myself in their shoes. And like I say, I used to answer everything until midnight and that was taking a toll in my health and my personal relationships. Now I put a limit. My phone goes on Do Not Disturb at 9 p.m. and it again until 8 a.m. But if I get a question at 8 p.m. and I know it's long, I'll just let them know, hey, I'll get back to you tomorrow, or I'm driving, I'll get back to you. But yes, it's hard on the people around you. It's hard for your family and for everyone. People finally understand, but there's some limits. But you have to be reachable. I think the clients appreciate that. And the other thing, I never put pressure on a client, on a buyer or on a seller. I tell them, look, this is the delays we have. And if I don't have any information after a certain time, then I tell them, look, we just have, but you need to decide now, you need to sell. No. And that's two things that clients tell me. You're reachable, you're always, and we don't feel pressured by you.
Nice. Good. Well, this was an amazing episode, Catalina. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And we'll see each other again in 2 weeks.